I've been working on this video about the children of Charles and Catherine Guthoerl. And let me tell you, I don't think I can ever do them justice because there was so much talent in that family. And, you know, my talent for doing videos is very small compared to their talent for what they did. And there are so many newspaper articles. I looked at many of them, but just can't get it all done. And there are a lot of things I would like to talk about, like in relation to them, because they weren't like during an important part of history. You know, you have World War I, you have the Depression, you have the kind of entertainment that was given at that time, the Spanish flu. I mean, there's all kinds of things that are going on during the time period that we're talking about that you could, you know, kind of try to relate into here. It would be a really interesting thing to do. I just don't really have the time or the capabilities to do that, I guess, really. So I just want to say, I hope I did okay and did all right by this family. So here we go. So I'm going to start with Cyril. He was the eldest of Catherine and Charles' children, their natural children. And he was born on July 18th of 1899 and died in 1964. Born in Pittsburgh, died in Detroit, Michigan. So Cyril, it's hard to talk about one of these children without talking about the others because they were involved in things together, the different ones at different times and different things. But Cyril, you know, he lived at home, I guess, until he got married. His address is shown as the 2806 Sarah Street up through the 1920 census. Then in 1930, he was living with his in-laws in the 4th Ward at 142 Robinson Street, living with the Wagners. He was married to a Dolores Wagner. In 1918, I found his World War I draft card. He was 19 years old. He showed his employment as an organist at the Olympic Theater on 5th Avenue in Pittsburgh. And I have different news articles I'm going to show you in a different clip of Cyril involved in different things in the community. But eventually, sometime in the mid-30s, Cyril left Pittsburgh, left his organist jobs here in Pittsburgh, and went to become the organist at the Shrine of the Little Flower in Royal Oak, Michigan. Now that shrine was founded by a Father Charles Coughlin. I believe you say it is Coughlin. He was a very famous, or I might say infamous, priest who became what was known as the radio priest. He gave radio addresses, which at first were innocent addresses doing catechism for children, but they morphed into very politicized statements or addresses to which millions of people listened to these, and he was very influential for a period of time. But eventually he was investigated by the FBI as being a Nazi sympathizer, anti-Semitic person who was professing these views over the radio and tried to influence people. The reason I'm really going into this in any amount of detail is because I believe that when you're researching your genealogy, you're also studying history. You know, I'm no expert on history, but as things come up like this, they make it also very much more interesting and full. You know, so you know what Cyril. He wasn't just playing the organ, but he was involved in a part of history, a part of what became American history. So it's absolutely fascinating that somebody in our family was present for this, what was going on up there at the Shrine of the Little Flower. So I hope you don't mind me talking about this some. Here's an ad for the Olympic Theater where Cyril worked in 1918 when he registered for the draft in World War I. And here's an article on an operetta called Pocahontas being presented with Cyril as the musical director and including in the cast Irma Guthoerl, and my grandmother, Margaret Babinger. This picture and little article about Cyril was published on October 21st, 1923, announcing that he has accepted a position as organist at Loew's Aldine Theater. He had also worked at the Apollo Theater on the South Side and then the Olympic Theater. This is an ad for the Wurlitzer Music Conservatory, published in January 1932. Cyril was on the faculty. This article describes a contest that was going on in the city of Pittsburgh, where you had to find this, quote, missing girl. And Cyril was the winner of this contest. He won $175 and $10 worth of yellow cab tickets. So that was quite a prize. I'm sure he was very thrilled with it. He had hunted this person down for like a week and finally found her at the corner of Smithfield Streets and Diamond Street. This shows both Cyril and Irma were on the radio at 10:15 p.m. And I also found another one where Cyril's organ school had a recital on KQV radio in 1928. So I don't know how often they were on the radio, but they certainly were on these two times. And here's a photo ad of Irma and Cyril promoting this concert they were going to do on the radio. An article about a new dramatic society that was founded at St. Peter's by Cleo and Cyril. And here's an article about a fire that Cyril and his family escaped at the Shrine of the Little Flower in Royal Oak, Michigan. This article on Cyril's work for Father Coughlin was published in June of 1935. And here's a picture of the Shrine of the Little Flower as it stands today. Cyril died November 29, 1964, and is buried in Calvary Cemetery in Pittsburgh. So now we're going to move on to Irma Guthoerl, who married a Kilroy. She was born December 8, 1904, and died October 20th, 1995. Born in Pittsburgh, died in California. From the articles that I found and what I've read about her and the things that she was involved in, it seems to me like Irma had the most dramatic flair of the children of Charles and Catherine. She was an organist and piano player, but she was also a soloist, and she was involved in, musical theater things like that. She was a longtime organist at St. Basil's in Carrick in Pittsburgh. And she started there as organist when she was in the 6th grade at the age of 12 or 13. There are articles in the paper for her reaching her 25th anniversary as the organist at St. Basil's, and again, the 50th anniversary as organist at St. Basil's. So she had a tremendous career in music and was very involved in the Pittsburgh scene, along with Cyril at various theaters. She and Cyril were involved in the Loew's Penn Theater in downtown Pittsburgh, and Irma was also involved with the Enright Theater that opened in East Liberty. So she was really a mover and a shaker. And I also understand that she studied dancing, but I'm not sure in what manner dancing, whether it's the way we think of dancing in school today or if it was something different back then. There was an article about Irma in the paper in 1933 with a couple of funny stories that I'm going to relate here. One was that at St. Basil's Church, there was apparently a bird nest in the rafters above the organ, but she didn't know about it until one morning while she was playing the organ. The fledglings came out of the nest, and one of them landed right in her way, and she had to sort of get the bird out of the way so she could continue playing. Another story that she told in there was when she was doing the theater, at a theater, providing the music for that, the organ was supposed to rise on these mechanisms. So she was supposed to come up and rise up. Well, she started playing, but the mechanism didn't work. So people heard the music, but couldn't see who was playing it. Then they finally got that fixed and she came up. Then at the end, when she was supposed to go back down again the mechanism failed and she was left stranded there. And the actor, Dick Powell, came onto the stage and thought he was being tendered a heavenly reception. So those are a couple of funny stories that Irma told in 1933. Apparently she gave up that theater work once she got married to Eugene Kilroy. She gave up the theater work, but she did not give up being the organist for St. Basil. She kept that on for many, many years. I have several news articles that I'm going to be showing in a separate clip about Irma. I wanted to pop in here to explain about Dick Powell. I looked it up just to make sure it was the actor Dick Powell that she was referring to, and yes, it was him. This was early in his career. He actually acted as an MC for these vaudeville / movie productions that they put on. They were kind of a combination of vaudeville show and film and entertainment and stuff that they were involved in. So that's what Cyril and Irma were involved with at these various theaters in Pittsburgh. This is a photo of the Catholic Daughters of America cast for a musical called Little Tycoons, which Irma was involved with. This picture is about a benefit that was held for idle musicians who were out of work, and Irma was involved with that. This is a picture of Irma, who was serving on a reception committee for the Catholic Daughters of America in 1926. This is an article about a concert by St. Agnes Choir in 1922 at the Carnegie Music Hall in Pittsburgh, Cyril directing, Irma soloist. Here's a picture of Irma, who was in a play called Princess Bonnie, put on by the Catholic Daughters of America in 1924. This is a picture of Irma, who was serving as chairman of the entertainment committee of the Girls Club in 1926. And this is the announcement of the wedding that was going to take place that day between Irma and E.J. Kilroy, August 24th, 1931. This article was published August 29th, 1933, as part of a series on prominent Pittsburgh musicians featuring Irma and her musical career. This article was published on December 26, 1943, and talks about Irma's career and mentions her 25 years at St. Basil's, plus her theater work, her education, etc. This article celebrates Irma's 50 years as organist at St. Basil's in Carrick. Here's a picture of the Lowe's Penn Theater, where Cyril and Irma both played the organ. This was the interior of the Lowe's Penn Auditorium. This was in 1930, so just around the time when Irma and Cyril would have been involved. Gorgeous. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about a couple of the other children who I don't really have a lot of information about. We have Jerome, who was born in March of 1902. He died in August of 1976 in Steubenville, Ohio. The only record I can find of him having a musical career was he was the organist for St. Anthony's in Millville. Now, how long he did that, I don't know. But he was in the Army for a couple months, a few months in the 40s during World War II. And on the draft card, he showed his employer as a water filter company. And then in 1949, in a city directory, his occupation was shown as a repairman, and he was then still living at the Sarah Street address. But he was married once to a Marie Godkin, who died in 1945, And again, he married Margaret Offord, and he was married to her at the time that he passed away in Steubenville in 1976. He's buried at Calvary Cemetery. As far as I know, he has no children, but I'm not really positive about that. Bertrand is another one I don't have a lot of information on. He was born in May of 1911, died November of 1972. He was single, never married as far as I understand. He was an organist. I have a record that he was at Holy Angels in Hayes. There's also a mention of St. Agnes in Oakland and Guardian Angels in the West End. So he was an organist at several places. And he was also an assistant at St. Peter's. That is all the information I really have on Bertrand. I don't know really much about him. Now, Cleopha was born on February 27th, 1908 in Pittsburgh, and she died in November of 1983 in Los Angeles. She moved out to California after she retired. The most I know about Cleopha is that she took over for organist at St. Peter's once Charles, her father, retired from that job, and she held it for many years and was also the choir director. I don't find a lot of newspaper articles outside of that about Cleopha. Earlier on, when she was younger, she did things with Cyril at St. Peter's. But once she became the organist at St. Peter's, I don't see her involved in other things in the community. I mean, I don't find these when I'm researching it. She may have been, and it just wasn't in the paper. So, I don't know. But she was, there was an article published in 1954, which I'll put on here. And also, she had her picture in the paper when St. Peter's burned in 1952. And I'll show you that article too. I'm actually planning to do a totally separate video about St. Peter's, about the beginning of it, and how it came to be, and just a little bit about it, and then about the fire. So I think I'll do that as a separate video. But anyway, I don't really have a lot to say about Cleopha either. And then we have the two children that Charles had with his first wife, Anna Gimber, Carl and Stella. I can't find much information at all about Carl. He died fairly young, and from what I can gather, he didn't really have a musical career. I did find one article where he was like in a play, when he was younger. But other than that, I don't find anything about him being a musician, and his death certificate shows him as being a clerk as his job. Stella also died fairly young. Stella was born in May of 1890 and died in November of 1925 at age 36. She was an organist for 8 years at St. Francis at Homestead, but I'm taking it that she maybe retired from doing this work once she got married and had children. But I don't see any other information on her being an organist. This article talks about how the Guthoerl family was impacted by the fire at St. Peter's on March 7, 1952, and Cleo is pictured there. This article was published in October of 1954, but it describes the dedication of the new St. Peter's Church in January of 1954. At that dedication mass, that first mass, Cleopha directed the children's choir, Jerome sang, Irma played the new $19,000 Reuter organ that was designed by Cyril, and Bernard played the recessional. So it's a very interesting article on the Guthoerl family and the new St. Peter's. Cleopha died November 14, 1983 in Los Angeles and is buried at St. Peter's Cemetery in Pittsburgh.